I get asked all the time about financing land. I'm on a beautiful friend's farm up in Kansas, and this land is beautiful. There's farmland, they're growing crops, you got plenty of trees, got tons of wildlife out here, deer, turkey, you name it. And you can own land like this too, but in order to finance land like this, it takes a totally different type of loan. You need to have a conversation about how to set that loan up, because it's not a normal residential loan. And there's really a couple things you need to consider. Number one, is it just raw land? If it's raw land and you don't have any structure on it, and I'm not talking about a structure like a barn that holds the equipment and maybe is half fallen over. I'm talking about a house. If you don't have a residence on this land, you're gonna do this land as a land loan. And that's gonna be different than a normal loan. Not just everybody does land loans, and they're structured differently than if you're buying a house. So just know that. That's number one, is there a residence on this property? Number two, how much land do you have? There's no problem financing any amount of land. It could be as little as an acre or as much as 1,000 acres. But the problem is, when we finance land, you have to establish a value for that land. We do that through appraisals, and we do appraisals by finding comparable properties that have sold. So the bigger the parcel of land, the harder it might be to find a parcel of property that's similar in size that is sold, so that we can establish a legitimate value. So just know, if you're thinking about buying a big parcel of land, that can be a challenge, and we need to have a conversation about it. So number one, do you have a structure on it? Number two, how big is it? Number three, what's the long-term plan for this land? If you're buying land, you're going to keep it a short period of time and sell it or flip it. That's one thing, and it's treated very differently than if you're buying land. Maybe you own it for 5 years before you build a cabin on it. Maybe eventually you build a house on it and you move to this land. Maybe you buy 30 acres on the outskirts and it's out a little bit, but it's close enough where you're still close to town. You want to build your dream home on there and retire that. All three of those products are different products. So what is your use for the property, and how long are you going to own the property? So those are really the three things that I think you need to think about from day one. Number one, is there a residence currently on it? Number two, how much land is it, and is that going to cause us an issue on the appraisal? Number three, what is your primary use for the land, and how long do you plan on keeping it? If you can answer those three questions, or if you have ideas, then we can have a conversation, and I can give you some coaching on how to buy the land that you want to turn it into a beautiful piece of property like this. Maybe hunt some deer, maybe do some fishing in a pond, all that fun stuff. So if you got questions, very simple, just pick up the phone, call Weber Mortgage, 823-6701, or DM us land, and we'll be happy to start the dialogue.